stiffness of the shaft and the tip section are less likely to bow downward in the swing than a more flexible and softer shaft tip found in most game improvement designs today. Therefore, the lies may have to start out slightly more upright to compensate for the downward bowing of the more flexible shaft, in addition to factoring in the horizontal distance to the CG created by the longer blade length. This is one reason why shafts have transformed over the years to reflect the changes in clubhead design and the clubhead center of gravity location. It's the same reasoning for shafts devoted specifically to fairway woods and hybrids with different CG locations and inertial properties compared to that of drivers and irons. It's also the reason why you could see the same lie angle on a driver that you do on a 3-wood, even though they're different lengths, or that the lie of the hybrid and the next iron in your set aren't in a logical progression. As originally mentioned, the lie you were fitted for could vary from fitter to fitter, and in each case be perfectly correct. The thing to remember is that the club is a system. It's constructed of various components. Most golfers look at it just from a clubhead standpoint, and that's the point I wanted to get across today. Now, as we saw from the lie diagrams, the center of gravity of a game improvement and super game improvement club may not only exhibit a longer blade length, the corresponding a CG further from the shaft's axis, but we also showed that the center of gravity becomes lower. If you look at many game improvement clubs, one thing you'll notice is the hosel is shorter. This is done to help offset some of the extra weight that's typically placed low in the club head, as the majority of the same numbered irons on the market weigh the same. Super game improvement irons are models that incorporate usually a secondary lighter material into the design, such as titanium or miraging steel face. The extra discretionary weight is then used to placed lower in the clubhead design or more rearward away from the face. Now, typically, for every 1/10 of an inch the center of gravity becomes lower, it will launch the ball about a half a degree higher. Granted, we haven't factored in blade length, horizontal center of gravity from the shaft's axis, or the offset, all of which are factors that influence the dynamic loft at impact. This is why the typical player's blade may start out with a 27-degree 5-iron, but a game improvement 5-iron may only be 26 degrees, and a super game improvement iron may be 25 degrees. This is to ensure that the initial launch angle is normalized. Now, iron loss beyond that range, at least for men, then there is either some marketing going on to make claims that the club is the furthest, or the stock shaft that's being used is launching the ball even higher and requires additional reduction of loft to again normalize the trajectory of the golf club. So if you're mixing and matching hybrids, irons, and blade style irons with various shafts, head sizes, and CG locations, then your lofts may not need to be spaced in a uniform 4 to 5 degree increment and get incrementally proportional distance like 10 yards between clubs, like what you're accustomed to or what you would like. Now, the next topic I want to discuss is club length, especially in drivers. Head weights for drivers and irons have remained relatively unchanged for many years now. As graphite shafts have gained in popularity, primarily in drivers, the shaft length went from 43 inches to 45 inches or even longer. In that brief period of time, which is only 2 decades, has the height of the average man or woman changed enough to warrant such a change? Well, of course not. But realize that it's the goal of each manufacturer to build in specifications for the average man and woman so they can hit their products well. Also, remember what a driver is. It's a specialty club designed to obtain maximum distance off of a tee. The increased size of the head, it helps to offset some of the control issues that might come from a longer club. This is the reason why over the last 2 decades you saw driver lengths increase by 2 inches, but not the rest of the set. The primary reason for length change is shaft weight, honest to goodness. You see, manufacturers are used to building to a certain specification, one of which is swing weight. With lighter and lighter shafts introduced into the market, length has progressively become longer and longer, and we don't need Jesse Ventura to tell us that. What is the typical driver today? Well, in the next year this may change, but for now, let's just say that the typical driver length is 45 inches long and equipped with a 65-gram shaft and a 50-gram grip. Lastly, the average driver head will weigh approximately 200 grams. But instead of calling these standards, I feel it's better to establish these as benchmarks. Another important consideration is the shaft installed into a 45-inch driver isn't 45 inches, but shorter for a couple of reasons. The club length is measured from the ground line up to the edge of the grip cap along the back side of the shaft, which factors in the extra material at the end of the grip, which is only, a quarter inch or so. Secondly, few heads exist today where the shaft goes through the bottom of the sole, but stops at an arbitrary position above the ground line. In the modern 460cc driver, the shaft now rests close to 1 9/16 inches above the ground line, meaning that the cut length of a shaft for a 45-inch driver is only 43.19 inches long. For club makers out there, you're used to purchasing graphite shafts for woods that are, for the most part, 46 inches long. This means you're lopping off an average of 2.5 inches of material from the shaft. So not only does the shaft that you purchase become shorter, but it also becomes lighter too. To get started here, most manufacturers will establish a standard set of specifications for a driver built around one shaft, their stock model, to create a certain swing weight with a particular head weight. Yes, I'll admit, longer the days when one shaft was available as your stock option, as consumers have a slew of custom shaft options to choose from today. But let's first talk about how a manufacturer may set up their initial standard length specification. This may sound counterintuitive, but most manufacturers produce heads in only one weight option, so they alter the length to achieve a certain swing weight. This is far easier, cheaper, and creates fewer inventories than offering different weight options of the same head for every potential scenario that could occur. One of the many factors that influence swing weight